sharp change of tone from a tyrant, which I'm saying, yes, Richard was, to our present Queen. Jacqueline in London asks, what is your opinion on the current Queen Elizabeth II? How will she be remembered? But I can't answer the last bit of that question because historians aren't prophets. You know, the pompous phrase of Hegel, the owl of Minerva only flies at dusk, or T.S. Eliot, only in retrospection, selection, can we say that was the day. History really does look backwards. But what we can say is what sort of queen, because after all, she's been on the throne almost 70 years, you can say very clearly what sort of queen Elizabeth has been. Elizabeth, and this is something very, very important, Elizabeth has been a profoundly conservative queen. When she came to the throne in 1952, 70 years ago, only 7 years after the end of the Second World War, when I, who was born in 1945, was only 7 too, Elizabeth did what? She announced in her accession speech, the speech to the Privy Council at which she assumed the throne, she announced that she would in all respects follow her father, George VI. He comes to the throne in the middle of the 1930s. So we're back now from the 50s to the 30s. But then at her first Christmas broadcast, she says something else. She will follow not simply in the steps of her father, but of her grandfather, George V. That takes us back to 1910, 111 years ago. Or rather, it really takes us back to 1917, which is still 100 and odd years ago. Because in 1917, George V completely revolutionizes the monarchy. He invents, or his advisors with him, and very much under his pressure, invent the House of Windsor. You change the marriage customs of the royal house so that you can marry English men and English women, and you invent this new, radically different order of chivalry, the Order of the British Empire, which is a mass order for hundreds, thousands of people, a bit like the French Légion d'honneur, and which is available to, well, everybody from the bottom of society, very ordinary people with the British Empire medal, to women, to who can get all the gradations of the order, to the very top of society. Now this creates a new sort of monarchy. It creates a, well, dare I say it, a democratic monarchy. If you watch, you'll see two of my launch videos deal with this. The two videos on the modern monarchy. There's one on those reforms of 1917, and there's another one on the most important consequences of those reforms, the shaping of a new kind of royal family. And Elizabeth has trodden in these footsteps absolutely. Her coronation was a direct repetition, really, pretty much the same music, and entirely the same style as the coronations of her father and her grandfather, her royal routine, the routine of Sandringham, of Balmoral, of Windsor, of the Garter, of the Maundy, of the trooping of the colour, of the official birthday in the summer and all the rest of it. All of this is the investitures in the ballroom at Buckingham Palace, the first investiture of the Order of the British Empire, the point about being democratic, took place in Ibrox Park football stadium in Glasgow. So it's not only COP26 that takes place there. In Glasgow has got a major symbolic impact. I mean, if you want to say, you're not a toff, off you go to Glasgow, especially when you're a toff like Boris Johnson or indeed George V. So there is this extraordinary transformed monarchy that I talk about in those two videos, which Elizabeth has fulfilled and repeated and refused to change to the letter. How has she been able to do this? She has because of two profound personal characteristics. The first is that one of the essential features of that new monarchy that I talk about a lot, I call it a royal revolution, one of the features of that new monarchy is the idea of the family monarchy, that the royal family is there not simply as a kind of, it's always a family, isn't it? But is there as a symbol of the very best of the British family. It's an exemplary family, and of course, the big issue of the middle of the 20th century is the question of divorce. This is pre-60s, of divorce law reform. They're there to show that they never ever divorce. And of course, the Queen's family life, in terms of her relations with her husband, is, well, it either was or is presented as a model of domestic happiness in the same way that her parents' marriage was, and the marriage of her grandparents, of George and Mary, and of George VI, and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. So the Queen, in her own personal life, the issue of the lives of her children is a very different matter, which we'll talk about in a moment. The Queen herself has been able to embody this sense of the royal family as the representative best of British families. So that's one part of how she continued the monarchy of her father and her grandfather. It's also, of course, something else. It is her peculiar attitude, this sense of duty, of doing your job. The Queen, like her father and her grandfather, is essentially a rather shy and, I think, modest woman. I don't think in fact, it's perfectly clear, she doesn't like celebrity. She's actually said so. She refuses to behave like an actress. She, above all, is uncomfortable with ceremony. I mean, she's famously frugal. You know, the business of the Tupperware is real. The business of the one-bar electric fire is real. Her tastes are of the most modest. I mean, the rumours are that one of the things that's tired her out recently isn't affairs of state and red boxes and seeing lots of people and travelling around all over the place. It's staying up late watching trash television, like, you know, any other year average old age pensioner. Very ordinary tastes. So why does she go through with all of this lavish ceremony? Why does an elderly woman parade around in daylight in white evening dresses? I mean, why? Until recently, wearing a crown. Why? Because it's her duty. This is, you know, what's been dinned into her from childhood, and her character seemed to fit it. So she's been able to exemplify the notion of Windsors as the archetype of the British family on the one hand, and that Windsor sense of duty. You just get on with it. But this, of course, is where, while she might have been able to do these things, well, her offspring certainly didn't and wouldn't. And of course, the diametric clash is between her and her daughter-in-law, Princess Diana. The Queen represents stiff upper lip, plod on, don't let on in public, don't expose your feelings, that world. Diana, well, Diana might have been the daughter of a rich and important English earl, an English nobleman. She behaved as though she'd been born in Orange County. She was a natural Californian. She believed in happiness, in letting it all hang out, in the right to be what she wanted to be. And of course, there is really a kind of moral clash between her and the Queen, which is what I suppose is fought out over Diana's tragic death in 1997. And the throne sort of tottered at that point. The Queen had to experience the infinite humiliation of being patronised and rescued by that terrible pair of Alistair Campbell and Tony Blair, and I don't think she's forgiven either of them for it. But of course, the reputation of politicians, and especially T. Blair, collapsed, and the reputation of the monarchy and the Queen in particular recovered. But the problems haven't gone away. The Queen has frozen the monarchy. But it seems to me, although the entire structure is still miraculously, essentially the structure of 1952, of 1937, of 1917, is hollowed out. Really is only the Queen. So the big question is, will it all crumble when she goes? Well, let's hope it's a long time before we find out. I'm going to pause there because there are lots more questions, and we'll do a part 2 of David Starkey's members Q&A. Hello, and thank you for watching David Starkey Talks. If, as I very much hope, you're enjoying them, why not become more actively involved and join my members club? As a member, you'll be able to take part in the members-only weekly question and answer session, suggest topics for forthcoming videos, and have priority booking for my forthcoming live events. And while you're at it, why not have a look at the store page on my website, davidstarkey.com. There you can purchase T-shirts and other merchandise, buy signed copies of my books, and, if you're feeling brave and a bit flush, even arrange to take me out to lunch. Thank you once again for watching. I look forward to hearing from you and to welcoming you to my members club.